I often say mistakes don't derail you. They actually create the rails for you that you can then lead yourself down. And that is so important and so counterintuitive, especially for us who grew up in an age where it's like you read the whole textbook, take a test, then you read the next textbook, take a test, right? For me, the way I've been able to build everything fast is by iteratively putting it together, learning as I go. Even my architecture book, I had to learn how to write the book, format it, sell it, create a sales page. I'd never done any of that stuff before. If I was doing a traditional schooling, and education for that, I would have gone to business school and then tried to figure it out. But I didn't. I didn't have time because I was moving back into my parents after getting laid off, and I had this force function pushing me to do things and experiment and try. If this were easy, what would it look like? If you ask yourself that question before you attempt to do anything, oftentimes you are able to get to the answer or to the solution much, much quicker, with less money spent, with less headache. Another example of that was when I was learning how to speak on stage, which started in 2011. And again, asking myself this question, if this were easy, what would it look like with thousands of books and videos and all these things I could have gotten into? I went to a person who I knew was a great speaker. And I just asked him one question. I said, if you were starting over as a speaker, what would be the one resource that you would go to? And he said, read this book called Stand and Deliver by Dale Carnegie. It became my guidebook for my very first talk in August of 2011. And since then, I've spoken on 350 stages and have earned 7 figures in speaker fees since then.
We're wired for this, right? Like you use the word soul. I mean, you could talk about neurology and brain chemistry and stuff like that. Like we literally file and access and convey information through stories. Like we don't necessarily think about this consciously, but like it really is true. And so that's the science part. And I think the art part is something that you really are masterful at, and you've really been able to do in many different formats. I think that's really what's so fascinating. Like having seen you on stage, see you write in the blogs in the early days, of course, podcasting, which is what we're going to get into a little bit more next, and now into this YouTube world that is. You've done a lot of YouTube, but a lot of your YouTube used to be more tutorial based, like over my shoulder, still in a story format, but like you said, Mr. Beast style, like entertainment. Like to me, that's like being a stand-up comic, like level of difficulty of nailing that sort of thing.
To give you an example of how powerful storytelling is, on my Pokemon YouTube channel, I get many comments of people who are watching hour-long videos, sometimes 2 or even 3 hour-long videos, who say, I don't know anything about Pokemon. I don't even know what this guy is talking about, but I can't stop watching.
Yes.
And the reason this is important is because story connects, because story is about the ups and downs. It's about the discovery. It's about the challenges that we overcome or maybe not overcome. But all these things are relatable. They bring emotion into what it is that you teach, and people connect on an emotional level often. And this is what's now more important than ever, because today there is more information than we could ever need. And more than that, there is AI just making it so easy for us to just get what we need informationally in an instant.
Of course it's good. This is where I got my start. But I think when you look at the data, I mean, it's definitely still in a growth phase. I think it's one of the most imbalanced channels in the fact that there's more and more and more listeners. There's more people consuming podcasts, audiobooks, but podcasts specifically. And it is a hard medium to maintain, and therefore there is a sort of pod fade effect. And so if you can be a creator who is committed to the podcasting, whether you're a host or a guest or preferably both, and you can stick with it and you can be consistent, there's so much opportunity. And there, I preach this a lot, and so we don't have to go into this too much here, but I think one of the first words you said when I said podcasting was relationship.
Because information is not valuable anymore.
Yes.
Time is valuable. And if you can be the coach that helps people get to that result faster, if you can help become a guide for a person so that they're not making the same mistakes and wasting their time, you're it. And so one thing comes to mind is if people are like, hey, Pat, I have a business and I want to promote it. If this were easy, what would it look like? Oftentimes my answer is be a guest on a podcast.
Good answer.
That's not just for you, Dustin. That's for literally everybody. And I share that as well. Be a guest on a podcast because that person has already spent the time to earn that trust. You have their endorsement and you're able to get in front of an audience that you wouldn't have been able to get in front of otherwise. You could do a million other things, but if you were going to do one, that's where I would start.
My life was divided into pre-internet and post-internet. I graduated in 1997, so grew up with no internet or no broad adoption. Kind of started to become a thing in high school and especially in college. And of course, everything's internet, after that. I was like, you guys are like pre-AI and post-AI. Like your whole life's going to change. And the decisions you're making right now about careers, like all this stuff is going to be influenced by AI in some way. I don't know exactly how, I'm just a 45-year-old guy who's reminiscing on pre-internet days. And, but I think this is what part of the magic of the timing of the book, Pat, is we were already overloaded with information. There was already, with the internet and 20 years of that, like we already have everything we could ever want to know at our fingertips. And now we have this AI technology and predictive technology, and it's even more overwhelming in my experience.
You can create something once and it continues to work for you over and over and over again. That's what I love about podcasting. So those are just a few examples. And of course, being a guest on other people's shows, just like I am here, a guest on Dustin's show right now, is obviously a great way to get in front of audiences with that, like you said, endorsement that comes to help fast forward that trust building and hopefully entice people to hearing about the book and maybe even, picking it up on Amazon or Barnes & Noble, Target, and anywhere else you might want. That was